Mark has asked me to come share with you what big global brands, Fortune 500 companies, executives are thinking about, worrying about, how they're dealing with the changing marketplace. And I thought that this title and subtitle really sums it up. And they're all looking for a change in how they appeal to their particular audiences, their consumers, from awareness to belief, or from audiences at scale to specific audiences at scale. So I'm going to go through really quickly. Let me give you the bad news and good news of this presentation right to start out with. So the bad news is Mark asked me to jam 20 years of what I've learned into 30 minutes. So I'm going to be speaking very rapidly, and the faster I speak, the worse this Boston accent gets. So I want to apologize for that right up front. But the good news is that I read some journal recently that after about 10 minutes of listening to a business author speak, your brain naturally goes to thoughts of sex. So even if you don't learn anything, in 10 minutes you'll all start enjoying yourself. So that's the good news. Okay. So what's going on out there? Schopenhauer said that talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. Talent is not enough in this marketplace anymore. Make no mistake. The people who are going to make it happen are seeing things that no one else sees. The problem is, and Goethe told us this, the hardest thing to see is what's right in front of your eyes. Let me show you quickly how hard it is to see what's right in front of your eyes. Just follow along with me. Put your hands out like this. We'll see if we can wake everybody up. Clap your hands together once. Now turn your hands palm face out. Lift your right hand above your left. Don't mirror me. There you go. Right hand. Cross your hands and interlock your fingers. Now this is important. Make sure your right thumb is on top of your left thumb. Reverse yours. Okay. All right, extend your index fingers. Tap them together once. Now if you see what's going on right before your eyes, you should be able to do this right now. Yeah, see, so this is what's going on out there in the marketplace as well. We don't see it because we get up and we do the same thing every day. We don't see what's going on right in front of our eyes. Some people admit it. Some really brave executives. John Cahill, this was in February on an earnings conference call. Can you imagine saying this, that you can't see what's going on? He said, it's clear that our world has changed and our consumers have changed, but our company has not changed enough. That means we haven't seen what was going on right in front of our eyes. There are even some people brave enough in industries to say, hey, the whole industry is not paying attention. This was in May 13th on Radio Today. We spend so much time justifying our formats, leaning on research, regurgitating cold, lifeless numbers to agencies, and publishing facts about why other media isn't as effective as radio that we've come to miss the point. We've come to miss the point. What is the point? Here's the point. Things have changed a lot. 52% of the Fortune 500 have been merged, acquired, gone bankrupt, and fallen off the list since 2000. On top of that, the average age of a company since the S&P was started in 1960 has gone from 60 years to 12. Yeah. We can't see this. It's invisible. It's hidden. But this is what's going on. Now, why is this happening? Donald Sull, in an article, a seminal Harvard Business Review article, Why Good Companies Go Bad. Listen to what he says. He says, many leading companies plummet from the pinnacle of success to the depths of failure when market conditions change. So he asked why. He says, is it because they're paralyzed? He said, no. It's because they're engaged in too much activity. Activity of the wrong kind. Success breeds active inertia. Active inertia breeds failure. Let me give you a little metaphor so you'll never forget this. A lion in Africa can run around, chase down, catch and eat field mice all day long and feel really satisfied inside. But what the lion doesn't know is that the calories it puts out running around chasing these mice are more than the calories it gets back from eating them. So even though it feels really good inside, slowly over time, the lion starves to death. That's why lions are genetically programmed not to like things like that, to like big things, water buffalo, antelope. In North America, primarily, most big organizations, are feeling really good and they're starving to death and they don't know it. They don't know it. How do you change that? What's the key? It's to understand the social changes that are taking place right now, because that's going to dictate who wins in the future. Let me give you the 5 changes that are taking place, and they're never going back to the way they used to be, ever. And how it's creating a collective mindset that's going to force everyone here to shift what they focus on from awareness to creating a specific audience that believes in what you have to say and what you're trying to do. Let me take you through it rapidly. Now, these are things, honestly, that you don't see every day because you're not aware of them. Do you understand the amount of choice we're saturated with in this marketplace? This is one example. In a typical grocery store, there are 50,000 different brands. When you go to the store on a typical trip, you pick up 50 out of 50,000 that are trying to get you to put their brand in the shopping cart. 50. Second trend, there's a glut of conflicting information and a hyper-fragmentation of media platforms. This is not going away. I collect some of this information just to show you. Is TV good for kids or bad for kids? Yep. This is Newsweek, why TV is good for kids. And then over here it says, no, it's not. I like this one. This is on my refrigerator door. This data suggests, this is Men's Health. This data suggests that replacing cereal with eggs and bacon could reduce your heart disease risk. So that's on my refrigerator. Until I found this one. Eating egg yolks almost as harmful as smoking, says Canadian study. And here's my favorite one that I have yet to figure out. Wearing a bicycle helmet doubles your risk of being hit by a car. Now, you can look at all this and say, you know, that's kind of funny stuff. It's funny unless you're a consumer trying to understand what you're supposed to be doing in the world, how you're supposed to be negotiating all this stuff. In addition, the information is piling on. This was an astonishing fact that Eric Schmidt put out at a conference in 2010, right? 5 years ago. Every 2 days now, we create as much information as we did from the dawn of civilization up until 2002. Every 2 days. We don't see it. It's hidden from us. Third trend, radical transparency. You see, these things in our pockets, these are not phones. We know that, right? People don't even answer these things anymore, do they? Don't call me. I never answer the phone. Text me if you want to talk to me. They're computers. And we have the ability now to find out everything about everyone and to broadcast everything about everyone to everyone. Here's a startling statistic. 70% of Americans check their smartphones every 6 minutes. That means right about now you should be checking yours into my presentation. Fourth trend. You see, that was me. Probably, maybe a lot of you. We were idiots back then. We would sit on the couch. We didn't have a remote control, right? So if somebody said, go change the channel. No, I'm not getting up. You go change it. No, let's just watch Bonanza again. It's a good show, right? And all of the major brands could reach us by advertising on those 3 channels. And so over time, we watched these commercials. We started believing them because they were repeated over and over and over. Oh, chicken of the sea tuna. I mean, I don't like fish, but chicken of the sea, that might be something we like. I know you look and you go, oh, Jerry Seinfeld. This is true stuff. This is an ad circa 1940-something. More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarettes. I could show you hundreds of these things. That's who we were. That's not us any longer. This is us. We're savvy, active discerners of every message that comes out at us. We're trying to tease it apart to figure out what the intent is. We know what's going on. Toto has pulled the curtain back. We want to participate now, don't we? We want, hey, let us make the Doritos Super Bowl ad. Why are you doing it? Yours aren't that good. And the last trend, and this is a big deal. We have lost our gods. We lost faith in the media. We lost it in our culture. You can't point to a movie star who might inspire us because we know too much about them. We lost it in politics because we know too much about politicians' lives. We lost it, that basic sense of trust and confidence in everything. So what happens when you combine all of these things into people's heads? What ends up coming out? Gertrude Stein put it perfectly. She said, everyone gets so much information all day long that they lose their common sense. We've lost it. We've lost common sense. You know what psychologists tell us happens to us under information load when there's too much coming in that we can't possibly handle? It's interesting. It's 4 things. The first 3 make perfect sense. The 4th one makes no sense at all, so that's how you know that's where the insight lies. Let me give you the 4 things. Let me give them to you by example. Let's say you want to buy a used car for your daughter to take to college, and you want it to have a decent repair record and all that kind of safety record. So you start Googling on your short list some model number. You punch it in. How many hits come back? It doesn't matter. Punch anything in and get less than a page. I'll give you $100 before I leave. Everything comes back, thousands of hits, tens of thousands of hits. So the first thing that happens is you become frustrated. How can you possibly search through all this stuff and figure that out? Right? That's why SEO is still booming, because you look at the stuff on the first page. Not even the second page anymore, just on the first. So now you click one of these links and you read the review. And what's it say? Best car I've ever owned, bar none. Oh, good. Let me click the second review. What's it say? It's a lemon. Don't ever buy this thing, right? So now you went from frustrated, you just added confused to it. So here's the third thing that you do. You say, screw this. I'm going to go drive one of these cars. So you go down to some lot and you drive one. You've now become what economists call rationally ignorant, right? Because it's rational to drive one instead of try to drive all of them, but you are ignorant, right? I mean, you're driving to work and your gas is going down to empty, so you pull in and get gas. How come you didn't drive all over town? That's not rational. So you're rationally ignorant. Blows my mind. Frustrated, confused, ignorant. Once you decide to purchase the car, you become overconfident in your decision. How does that make any sense at all? Why? What one thing do you know you can rely on when you get confused and frustrated and overwhelmed? The one thing you know will never let you down. Exactly right, your gut. In 2006, Yankelovich found 92% of Americans agree with the statement, I trust my instincts, while only 24% agreed with listening to experts. We're running on instincts because that's the only way we can make it in the world. We can't make it any other way. So what is a brand then? A brand is nothing more than a belief, right? It's my instinct. It's my personal feeling of knowing something. How you bring it to life is what determines success. There is no objective reality when it comes to brands. Otherwise, there would only be one brand in every category. This is how it works. It's really simple. We have desires. We all have desires. If you take that and you add to it abundant choice, autonomy, and a sense of confusion, that creates all kinds of beliefs. All kinds of beliefs, which creates all kinds of brands, all kinds of media platforms, all kinds of consumer brands. There's going to be an explosion of brands. Explosion. Now, Einstein said it's the theory that determines what we can see. So I'm going to rush you through a theory. I can't take you through how this works. I don't have time, but the theory will probably give it to you. Richard Feynman, the great physicist, said the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. So be careful as I go through this that you don't fool yourself and say, what he's saying is irrelevant. All you have to do when you walk out of here is figure out if you can answer these questions, these 3, with everything that you do, everything that faces the brands, the consumers. If you answer them correctly, you'll win. First one is, how will I bag the candy? The second question is, who will I be, Gladstone or Disraeli? And the third question is, will I take the nickel or will I take the dime? Let's go to the first one. Daniel Kahneman, in his seminal book on decision-making, Thinking Fast and Slow, said, you generally believe your impressions, and act on your desires. So what does that mean? It means that as you add self-enhancing value components to people's impressions and desires of the brand, that includes aesthetics, sensory pleasure and stimulation, identity, narrative and values, and control, giving them a sense of power and progress. What that does is that increases your audience's happiness and self-worth, that creates belief, and they stay with you. That's how it works. It's that simple, believe me. Now, Edward de Bono said the winner is the chef who takes the same ingredients as everyone else and produces the best results, right? Aesthetics, identity, control. Let me run through some examples real quick for you. Aesthetics. What matters most is not the world as it appears to our senses, rather the enjoyment we get from something derives from what we think that thing is. The classic example that I use is, I'll give it to you in a second. It's a fish, but let me tell you a story about the candy, how you're going to bag the candy. So there's two competing candy stores. The kids love this store, and they're right across the street from each other. They hate this store. So they market people, they hired some researchers, and they said, go find out what's going on. Market researchers come back, and they said, we don't get it. It's same friendly service, same pricing, same selection, everything. So the marketer went out and said, well, let me go ask the kids. And they said to the kids, how come you love that store and you hate that one? And the kids said, oh, the lady in that store, she gives us extra candy, the one in the good store. The lady in that store, she's a bad lady. She takes candy away from us. All right, so what we would typically do is go scold people. What are you doing, stealing from kids? Don't take candy from the kids. But instead, they went with the kids so that they could see what was going on. So they walked in to the bad store, and they ordered a pound of candy. Very friendly lady. She takes some candy, scoops it onto the scale, brushes some off, brushes some off, brushes some off. It gets down to a pound. She puts it in the bag, gives it to the kids. Have a good day. They walk across the street to the good store. Nice, friendly lady takes a little candy, sprinkles it on, takes a little more, sprinkles it on, takes a little more, sprinkles it on, puts it in the bag. Do you see? She gives us extra candy. The bad lady takes it away. It sounds silly, but this is everything in the marketplace is like this. Again, my classic example is this fish, right? Would you want to go out tonight and have a Patagonia toothfish meal? Hell no, until some smart guy changed it to Chilean sea bass. It's not even a bass, it's cod. Do you see? It's what we think we're buying is what's interesting to us. Look at this. Who would have imagined that you could just take dishwashing liquid and stick it in bottles like that and make millions of dollars? Aesthetics, people, aesthetics. That's the Kansas City Library. Aesthetics, look, feel, pleasurable experiences. They're big, they're huge. You go into a Kimpton's hotel and they see you're checking in by yourself, they give you a goldfish to take to your room to keep you company for the night. Oh, yeah, where's the value in that, right? Aesthetics are huge. Why? Because the essential difference between emotion and reason is that emotion leads to action. Reason leads to conclusions. You're not going to reason your way to success, not in this marketplace. Identity. You can't even see these identity plays because Apple and Nike, and these people don't tell you what they're doing. They stay hidden behind the curtain. John Kay, the British economist, he said, I am irresistible, I say, as I put on my designer fragrance. I'm a merchant banker, I say, as I climb out of my BMW. I'm a juvenile lout, I say, as I down a glass of extra strong lager. I'm handsome, I say, as I don my Levi's jeans. We all do this. We identify with the things that we buy, believe it or not. So, will you be William Gladstone or Benjamin Disraeli now that you know how to bag the candy? So this woman, British woman, was lucky enough to have a chance to go out to dinner with two eminent British statesmen, William Gladstone on one night, and on a separate occasion, Benjamin Disraeli. Her friend was amazed by this, asked her, these are prime ministers. This is like going out to dinner with JFK, right? So her friend says, what was it like going out to dinner with William Gladstone? She said, after spending the evening with Mr. Gladstone, I can assure you he's the most clever man in all of England. Her friend was impressed and said, what was it like going out to dinner with Benjamin Disraeli? She said, after spending the evening with Benjamin Disraeli, I can assure you I'm the most clever woman in all of England. Now, who do you think she wants to go out to dinner with again? We don't realize this. It hit me right in the face. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. I was doing a presentation. This is the government of Canada. I was in Ottawa, and I've got firemen, policemen, all these park rangers all sitting out in this big audience like this. Like, what is this guy from Boston doing up here talking to us about this stuff? Now, I put an ad up as an example, just as an example. And after I showed this ad, their eyes lit up. They loved me after I showed the ad. Here's the ad.
When you think about Canadians, you might ask yourself, why are we the way we are? Well, the answer is laying right under our feet, literally. Fact is, it's this land that shapes us. There's a reason why we run off the dock instead of tippy-toe in. It's because that water is frozen 6 months a year. And that frozen water brought on a sport that we can call our own. This land is unlike any other. We have more square feet of awesomeness per person than any other nation on Earth. It's why we flock towards lakes, mountains, forests, rivers, and streams. We know we have the best backyard in the world, and we get out there every chance we get. Because it's not just the great outdoors we're chasing, it's freedom. And this place gives it to us at every turn. Here, we're free to chill out, free to unwind, and free to wind up. There's a beer that comes from the same land we let loose on, and it's brewed to be as clean, crisp, and fresh as the country it comes from. So here's to everything this land gives us. Molson Canadian, made from Canada.
They love me. Do you understand? And if you didn't get chills watching that, then you're dead. I'm telling you, this is what happens. This is what happens when you turn on people's sense of self, their identity, and make them feel proud about who they are. Brands help people tell the world and themselves who they are and where they belong. Now, if that's true, what do you think the world's strongest brand is? Well, Apple's close, Nike's close, but I judge it a different way. I don't go completely with financials. Here's a hint. Yeah, Harley, yeah. Any brand that can get people to permanently affix the logo to their body for life has the strongest brand in the world. And they asked the guy at Harley, they asked one of the executives, what do you sell? Do you think he said, we sell motorcycles? Hell no. He said, what we sell is the ability for a 43-year-old accountant to dress up in black leather, ride through small towns, and have people be afraid of him. They sell identity. That's why you'll never see a Harley minivan. It's not going to happen. All right, final, control. This is big. Everybody's starting to get into this game. That's why all of these things are exploding. Fitbit, it's giving us a sense of control. Is it going to improve our lives? I don't know. It's giving us a sense of control. Research shows that the key component of happiness is a sense of control over your life. The more you perceive yourself to be in control, the better you feel. Here's an example. Oh, we got to do the nickel or the dime. Okay, so you're now Disraeli and the candy, you know what to do. Give them a little bit more. So there are two brothers. There's Bobby, he's 4, little Bobby. And his older brother is probably like 13 or 14. Well, the older brother's in his bedroom with a bunch of his teenage friends, and they're cutting up. And Bobby wants to go in there, but if you have an older brother, you know that you just don't storm into a room like that, not when you're 4 and only this big. So he's like walking back and forth in front of the door, just trying to catch his attention, you know. And finally, the older brother sees him, and he says to his friends, hey, guys, I want you to see something. My little brother is so stupid. I don't understand this kid. He said, watch this. Hey, Bobby. Bobby hears him. He runs in to the room, and the older brother puts his hand in his pocket and takes out a nickel and a dime. And he turns to his friends and says, watch how dumb this kid is. So he thrusts the nickel and dime out at his brother, and he says, Bobby, which one do you want? The big one or the little one? So Bobby reaches out, he grabs the nickel, and takes off down to his bedroom. These kids are on the floor. Ah, your brother is so stupid. How old is he? He's 4. He doesn't know that. And they're laughing, and unbeknownst to the boys, the father is watching this whole thing. Right? He's, oh, Jesus, I got to deal with this now. Let me go see Bobby and see if I can figure out what's going on here. So he goes down to Bobby's room, and here's Bobby just bouncing on the bed. He could care less. And his father says, Bobby, come here for a second, son. He bounces over. What is it, Dad? Stop bouncing. Let me ask you a question. I just saw what happened in your brother's room. He said, yeah, Dad? He said, son, we've talked about this. don't you know the difference between a nickel and a dime? He said, of course I do, Dad. He said, a nickel, that's 5 pennies, and a dime is 10 pennies. And he said, then son, why every time when your brother says, which one do you want, the big one or the little one, why do you keep taking the nickel? Bobby jumps off the bed, reaches down under the bed, and pulls out a sock full of nickels and says, Daddy, when I take the dime, the game is over. In this marketplace, too many brands are taking the dime. They're taking the dime. Look at what the Meijer does. Gas Alert program allows customers to opt in to receive a text message alert 3 hours before gas prices are scheduled to go up. Sense of control, right? Sense of control. You remember the first iPad television ad? Probably not, huh? Because it's interesting. I looked to see what it said. You know, we've got the fastest this and this many gigs and money back guarantees, all that. They said nothing, not one thing. All they did was give you a sense of control. Take a look.
Be the charming type. Take off your gloves and show what they hide. I'll let you cry if you close your eyes. I'll have an answer for your eyes. There goes my love. There goes my love. There goes my love.
That's it. These people get it, but they're not going to tell you how they do this. They do not want you to know. Finally, because advertising is part of what we do, to give you an idea of the trend that's going on with big brand managers regarding advertising. Listen to this, because this is about giving customers control of the narrative. Stories create new ways of seeing, which lead to new ways of feeling and thinking. Storytellers expand the consciousness, waken the sleeping self, and give their hearers the words and motifs to use for themselves. Do you see how a story allows us to create the meaning, not somebody's trying to force something on us or persuade us to do something? I was sitting with the CMO of Chipotle, Mark Crumpacker, and he talked about what this one little story did for Chipotle. Huge. I'll show you the results as soon as you look at it one more time.
Just guessing at numbers and figures, pulling the puzzles apart. Questions of science, science and progress don't speak as loud as my heart. Nobody said it was easy. It's such a shame for us to part. Nobody said it was easy. No one ever said it would be so hard. I'm going back to the start.
I get tears when that little wooden pig shows up there at the end there. It's ridiculous. This is the power of this storytelling medium. He sent me this slide, by the way, which, by the way, boosted his identity, didn't it? To give me a slide that says it has 75,000 iTunes songs downloads, 6 million YouTube views, 21 million theater impressions, 40 million television impressions, you know, won awards, the Grandy Award, Gold Cube winner, shortlist. I mean, crazy. It built his identity, as well as the identity of the brand. All right, now I don't typically quote Canadian rappers, but I could not find a better one than this. Drake said, sometimes it's the journey that teaches you a lot about your destination. Here's the journey. Add candy. Let's not forget that small emotions are the great captains of our lives. Be Disraeli. The deepest urge in human nature is the desire to be important. And finally, take the nickel. The more you give it away, the more it comes back. And finally, do what Cecil Beaton, the great English photographer, said. Be daring, be different, be impractical, be anything that will assert integrity of purpose and imaginative vision against the play-it-safers, the creatures of the commonplace, the slaves of the ordinary.